Hey everybody, Tom Miller here with Lauren Waters, and this is challenge day 7. So hopefully at this point, now if this is your first day with us, you may want to go back and start on day 1, but it's okay. You can start anywhere in the series, but this is a 10-day challenge that we're putting out to you. And so by this point, you should have downloaded your 10 indicators wheel of success. Lauren's going to put up our new wheel. If you haven't seen it, this is what you should be able to download next. So you should have downloaded your wheel, right? So now you have it based upon each of the substandards per indicator. And if you haven't taken the assessment, you can go to 10indicators.com and you can take the assessment, download the wheel, and then you're going to fill in your wheel. And Lauren's going to show you what your wheel might look like when you have started to fill it in. So here you go. So this is if you've done all 10 indicators, and we're focusing today on indicator 7, which is a fiscal vitality, which is down here in the bottom left, right? So if I'm a leader of this school, like I'm looking at, hey, I only have 5 of the 7 indicators. That's about 70%, right? So now I have a starting point, versus, the rest of the wheel is very, very balanced here for this school. And that's what you want to do. You want to have a visual and a common conversation with your team around, hey, what are our strengths and what are our areas for growth? And Lauren, like this wheel just does a really good job of showing. And I don't know, this isn't the average of all the ones that we've taken, right? But it's kind of close.
Yeah, no, this isn't our norm data, but
Yeah.
it's pretty
Just
close.
it's just an example, but it is really close when I'm looking at 3 and 4, and right. So now I see where my ride is bumpy, right? If I took this wheel and rolled it down the street, right, I'm gonna be bouncing a little bit, and you don't want a bouncy ride. You want a nice, smooth ride. So whether all of your scores are in that middle of the circle mark, as long as it's rolling, that's good. But if it's jagged and bumpy, it helps you prioritize, right? So let's spend some time talking about standard 7, right? So this is a fiscal vitality indicator number 7. And so we've been talking a lot about why charter schools close. And the number one reason why charter schools close is honestly because of finances. And almost 20% of schools close before year 3, 40% close after year 10. Right? So like, well, how could a school close, because of finances after 10 years? Well, it usually has something to do with internal controls, right? Or lack of building up a reserve base, or like evolving. And that's why, yes, charter schools close because of finances, mainly, but they really close because of all 10 indicators, right? Something, their wheel continues to bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce, and eventually it leads to student attrition, and student attrition leads to lack of funds and resources. And then as a result, the school starts to lose money. And that's one of the standards here, right? Is that the student attrition rate is less than 5%. And it really needs, to be better. And this is just the student attrition rate of from day 1, of enrollment through like your last month of school. This doesn't even really count summer attrition rate, but you should also monitor that as well, right? Because attrition is expensive, whether it's attrition of your kids or attrition of your teachers. It's really, really expensive to have to, you know, um, get kids to unlearn and relearn a new culture and new, behavior. So when you keep your own students over time, they can improve through the law of consistency. Lauren, what are the substandards? You had brought up one during our pre-talk, right? Of these 7 substandards, which one do you think is one that we spend a lot of time on during our inner circle calls?
Yeah. Well, the phrase that comes to mind when I think of this indicator that you say so much, Tom, is knowing your numbers. So when you were talking about the student attrition and even your staff attrition, knowing your numbers is so important. And so a lot of times when we ask schools those questions, well, what is your staff attrition rate? They're like, oh, it's so high, but they don't have an actual number to give us, or they'll say, oh, it's so low, no one ever leaves. But really keeping track of what those numbers are is important. So you have a clear picture of your actual reality.
Yeah, and that's all numbers, right? It's not just enrollment, but it's turnover. It's where am I in the budget? It's I don't know. Maybe I'm blessed. I've just always been pretty good with numbers, in terms of like being able to kind of remember, but I think it's really because I spend a lot of time knowing where I want to be, you know? So in the book, if you haven't got your copy, everybody, it's available right now. You can grab it. You can go to Amazon and get a copy, or you can go to our website, 10indicators.com, and download all the bonus resources with it. But in there, we actually talk about, hey, here's a best practice, you know, percentage for every area of your budget, including, you know, reserves that you should have, and one, you know, your largest expense is always your people and your personnel. It's always the highest. But what we've seen lately, Lauren, right, is schools are having a hard time maintaining salaries and benefits to be competitive in their school system, and that you know, that's an issue. If you have a school that has not a great academic performance and the culture is a little and you're not going to pay your people at the highest level, oh, you are that is a recipe for disaster, right? And so finding a way to know, okay, here's what the local school system pays, here's at minimum what we want to pay, and learning how do I create my own you know, salary scale, and just put myself on a different level, right? You know, how do I get out of the pile in a sense? And that's usually the first, you know, question, you know, someone may ask is, well, I don't want to leave my school because one, I'm going to lose money, and maybe two, you know, maybe you're not part of the same benefit system, and it creates uncertainty right away. You know, people don't mess with people's money. And so that's probably the other bullet here that's really important. And so you know, maybe you can't get there right now, but what this book will help you do, and the budgeting process we have in here, will help you start to identify, okay, where should my dollars be going? What is the best use of all these? You may have some, you know, programmatic costs. I tell a story in the book about one foreign language program that we were paying like tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And I asked, well, how many people are logging in? Nobody was monitoring it. We had one kid log in 6 months. I was okay, well, we're getting rid of that, right? Because that's a person. So like, programmatic review, evaluation, and say, okay, I want my salaries to be, you know, 65 to 70%. And then, you know, to do that, you know, then I can make a decision. Am I going to pay my people more? Right. And probably have to have maybe a few more kids in the class, or am I going to pay them at least at scale, but have small class sizes? Like you can make decisions when you start to have a backwards design around your budget.
Yeah, and I was just going to add the importance of including your staff, or at least your teacher leaders, into some of those conversations and finding out what's really important. Because as you just mentioned, sometimes you have to examine other areas. So it could be, okay, we hear you, you want a higher salary, but at what cost? Are you okay with one more student in your classroom? Are you okay if we cut this program? And then you'll really start to see, you know, where they want to draw the line in the sand to get that increased salary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really important, because it does need to be a bottom up conversation, and they do you need to be transparent when it comes, you know, to money. You shouldn't be. I mean, everything's public record. It always kind of cracks me up when they want to have, you know, boards go in a closed session and talk about their budget. Like, for what? I mean, everything's public. Your salary scales are public. You know, like how much you pay people is public. Like, it's okay to have this conversation, but build a structure around it, because what we see is, well, I'll just pay you more because, you know, you're like the Barry Bonds of teaching, and then I got someone else, and you start to create these big gaps in, or, you know, around the salary. And, you know, teachers talk, right? So if you build a structure that works and you can sustain over time, I would highly recommend doing that. And the book gives you a process. So just looking at these other 7 indicators, you know, the number one piece, right? I love this Dave Ramsey quote. He says, you know, if you follow Dave Ramsey, he's like, kids do what they want and adults follow a plan. And your budget is a plan. It's a plan of how you'll spend your money. So take the time. The budgeting process doesn't start in April. It starts immediately when the school year starts. You're constantly looking at it, revising it, so you have the most accurate information to make real-time decisions. You know, if you want to hire an interventionist at the end of the year, or you need to, you need to like improve, maybe hire a dean or like a behavior, consultant, I mean, whatever. And you're like, well, I don't know if we have the money. Well, how do you not know? Someone's got to know, right? So looking at your budget, knowing your numbers, like Lauren said earlier, and every single month, right? Being like a forensic scientist when it comes to where are the dollars going out and how can I best use that? So the school gives you a process. So you got 7 pieces here. Remember, cash is the oxygen that will drive the success of your school. Make sure you take your assessment, download your wheel of success, and look at your score, and really take the time to look at, okay, where on my fiscal wheel, right, are we struggling, and where do we need to improve? Thanks, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you on Challenge Day 8.